The gift no one wanted. The metal halls of Outpost 9 were cold and full of noise, screams, laughter, and machines. This place was far from Earth, built deep in space by criminals and warlords. It was not a home. It was a prison, a place where no one cared who lived or who died. Derek, a human mechanic, worked in a small corner of the outpost. He fixed broken machines, cleaned engines, and tried to stay out of trouble. He didn't talk much, he didn't make friends. Life was simple. Just work, eat, sleep. But today was not simple. Today something strange happened. "Hey, Derek," a guard shouted, laughing loudly. "We got you a gift." Derek looked up from the broken plasma pipe he was fixing. Two guards were dragging something behind them. No, someone. A girl. An alien girl. Her skin was a soft blue, her body thin and shaking. Her arms were covered in metal chains. Her legs were weak. Her face was dirty, and one of her eyes was swollen shut. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just looked down, like she had given up a long time ago. The guards threw her on the floor in front of Derek. "She's broken," one guard said with a grin. "Useless. Thought you'd have fun with her before we toss her." Derek froze. He looked at the girl, then he looked at the guards. "I don't want her," he said quietly. "That's the point," the second guard laughed. "No one does. So, now she's yours." They walked away, still laughing, leaving Derek alone with the girl. For a few seconds, everything was quiet. The girl didn't move. Then she coughed, just once, and fell to the ground again. Derek didn't know what to do. He wasn't a hero, he wasn't a soldier. He was just a man who fixed things, machines, engines, not people. But something inside him moved. He took off his coat and gently wrapped it around her. Her eyes opened just a little. She looked up at him. There was pain there. Fear. But also something else. Something very small. Hope. Derek picked her, up slowly. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. He carried her to his workshop. It was a small room behind the engine bay, full of tools and broken parts. But it was quiet and safe. He placed her on a soft pile of old blankets in the corner. She didn't resist. She just curled up and closed her eyes. Derek looked at her. Chains were tight around her wrists. Her skin had cuts and burns. Some wires came out of her back like she had been connected to machines. Her lips were dry, her breathing was weak. She looked like a machine that someone tried to destroy. And Derek, he was a man who fixed broken machines. He got some water and carefully helped her drink. She didn't say thank you. She didn't speak at all. But her hands stopped shaking. That was enough. Hours passed. Derek cleaned her wounds and removed the dirt from her face. She was young, maybe his age, maybe younger. Her face was beautiful, beneath all the pain. Who was she? Why was she here? Why did no one care? Suddenly, the lights in the hallway blinked. Footsteps outside. Loud voices. Derek moved fast. He covered her with a blanket and pushed some boxes in front of the door. The guards were back. He could hear them laughing. "She's probably dead by now," one said. "Good. Freaks like that don't last long." They walked away. Derek waited. He didn't move. He just stood there, protecting a girl he didn't know, a girl that everyone had already given up on. That night, while Derek tried to sleep on the floor, the girl made a sound. A whisper. So quiet. He almost didn't hear it. "Why?" "Help me," she asked, voice cracking. Derek turned to her. She was awake, looking at him, her eyes full of questions. He didn't know what to say, so he gave her the only answer he had, because no one else did. The girl closed her eyes again, and for the first time, she smiled. The girl did not scream when they broke her bones. She did not scream when they tore the wires out of her spine. But Now in the quiet of Derek's workshop, she screamed without making a sound. Her body shook. Her eyes were open wide, staring at nothing. Her hands gripped the blanket tight, as if holding on to life itself. It was the middle of the night. Derek had been sleeping on the floor when he heard something. Something terrible. A soundless scream. He jumped up. The alien girl, still weak, still half-broken, was having a nightmare. But this was no normal dream. Tools were falling off shelves. A wrench floated in the air for a moment before dropping to the ground. The lights flickered, then her eyes snapped open, and everything went still. Derek rushed to her. "It's okay. You're safe now." She looked at him, breathing fast. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Then her body gave up again and she fainted. Derek sat next to her for the rest of the night, thinking. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The next morning, Derek connected an old data scanner to the strange wires, still attached to her back. He wasn't sure if it would work. It was made for machines, not people. But the device beeped. It had found something. He stared at the screen. Her name was not listed, but there was a code. Subject V47, class healer. Status decommissioned. Decommissioned? Like a machine thrown away after use? He kept reading. The records showed signs of heavy modification. Her nervous system had been changed. Something inside her brain had been locked, like a wall had been built to keep her from remembering something. Derek leaned back. She had been silenced from the inside. Her screams were trapped in her mind. Later, that day, she woke up again. This time, she sat up slowly. She looked around the workshop. Her eyes rested on Derek, then the tools, then her own hands. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, she grabbed a piece of metal sheet and a burned pen from the table. With shaking fingers, she drew. Derek watched in silence. She drew a tall chair with metal arms, straps, needles, wires going into a skull. She drew a man standing next to it, long coat, glowing eyes. Then she drew a symbol, a circle split into 4 parts with jagged lightning in the middle. She pointed at it, hand trembling. "Is this where they took you?" Derek asked softly. She nodded. Then she tried to say a word again. Just one. Her mouth moved, soundless, but Derek could read her lips. "Kill." Derek blinked. "Kill who?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she took the pen again and added one more image. A ship. She circled it, then drew a small stick figure with human shape next to it. She pointed at the figure, then at Derek. "You want me to find this ship?" he guessed. She nodded slowly, but her eyes said more. She didn't just want him to find it. She wanted him to help her stop something, or someone. That night, Derek told his old friend Mara, a junkyard scavenger and part-time hacker, about the girl. "Are you out of your mind?" Mara said. "You're hiding a genetically altered alien weapon in your workshop? Do you know what will happen if the guards find out?" "She's not a weapon," Derek replied. "She's a person." Mara frowned. "She's marked. That circle symbol? It's from the Shadow Corps. You know what they do? Mind control, torture, biological experiments. This girl, she's a survivor, and that means she's dangerous. I'm not turning her in." Mara looked at him surprised. Then she sighed. "You're gonna need my help, aren't you?" Derek nodded. Mara pulled out her data tablet. "Fine. Let's see what we can dig up on this subject V47. Outside the workshop, in the cold black halls of Outpost 9, 2 men in dark coats arrived. One of them carried a glowing metal device. "She's here," he said with a grin. "The signal is faint, but she's still alive." The other one grunted. "Then we retrieve her." "No. We watch." "Why?" "Because if the human tries to fix her, she might remember everything. And if she does, then we'll kill them both." Back in the workshop, the girl slept again. But this time, her sleep was calm. Derek sat nearby, holding a drawing in his hand. He looked at the ship she had drawn. He had seen one like it, long ago, in the scrapyards outside the outpost. He knew where to start. And he knew one thing for sure. This girl had been broken. But someone had done it on purpose, and he was going to find out why. She didn't speak often. But when she did, the word stayed in Derek's mind like cold fire. That morning she whispered something new, not in human language, not in any common alien tongue. It was older. It was royal dialect, spoken only by rulers from the inner stars. Derek froze. He had heard those words once before, during a repair job on a crashed royal ship years ago. He stared at the girl. Who was she? Mara arrived with a tablet full of data. Her face was pale. "You won't believe this," she said. She handed Derek the tablet. On the screen was a face, clean, strong, proud. It was her, but not broken, not bleeding, not silent. She wore golden robes. A healing crest glowed above her heart. She was once called Velara, high healer of the Crystal Dynasties. She vanished during the Core Wars. Everyone thought she died. Derek looked back at the girl in the corner, staring blankly at a bolt in her hand. "She didn't die," he said. "They took her. They turned her into this." Mara nodded, slowly. "And if she's healing, Derek, she's going to remember everything they did to her." That evening, Velara, though she didn't know her name yet, touched the scar on her wrist. It glowed, just for a second. Derek watched, his heart pounding. Then she looked at him. And this time, she spoke. 3 words. Quiet, clear. "I was queen." Derek stepped closer. "You remember?" She shook her head. "Only pieces. Fire, pain, screams, then silence." She touched her chest. "They took my voice. And my soul." Derek sat beside her. "You're getting it back." Velara looked at him, her purple eyes shining faintly. "Why?" "Because someone should," Derek said. The next day, they traveled outside the outpost, past the guards, past the scrapyards, to an old hangar full of junked ships. Derek had seen something years ago, a crashed transport with strange carvings. He was sure it matched the symbol Velara drew. They found it, rusted and broken, buried under scrap. Velara walked slowly to it, her hand trembling. She placed her palm on the cracked metal. A pulse of light shot through the hangar, and she collapsed. She woke up hours later in the workshop, shaking and drenched in sweat. But now her eyes were wide, clear. "I remember him," she whispered. "The man with the blade." Derek leaned in. "Who was he?" "He called himself Tarnak, said he wanted to rewrite the mind of royalty. I was the test subject. I screamed for weeks. They used my healing power to hurt others, and made me watch." Her voice cracked. "They made me heal. Monsters." Derek clenched his fists. "We're going to stop them." But Velara looked at him with worry. "You don't understand. Tarnak is not alone. He has a plan. He wants to replace every royal in the galaxy, with people like me. Mind-controlled, broken, useful." Later that night, Derek was reviewing data when Velara stood up for the first time without help. She walked to his workbench and picked up a small plasma tool. "What are you doing?" he asked. She stared at the glowing tip. "Learning," she said. "If I am going to stop them, I need to be more than a healer." Then she turned to him. "I need to be a fighter." Far away, on a hidden moon, a figure in dark robes stepped into a cold lab filled with tubes. Inside one of the tubes floated a clone, another version of Velara. "Project V-48 ready for deployment," a voice said. Tarnak smiled. "Let her remember. It only makes the next one better." Back at the outpost, Derek sat beside Velara as she practiced using her weak hands to weld metal. He handed her a small bracelet made from scrap wires. "What's this?" she asked. He smiled. You wore something like it in your photo. I thought, maybe it'd help you feel more like yourself. She slipped it on, her fingers shaking. For a long time she said nothing. Then she looked up and whispered, "Thank you. Not just for the bracelet, but for everything." It began with a whisper in the dark. A silent drone hovered just outside the ventilation shaft of Derek's workshop. It was small, no bigger than a plate, but deadly. It scanned the room quietly, searching. Then it saw her, Velara, and sent the signal. Tarnak's men were coming. Inside, Velara was learning to walk again. Her legs were still weak, but her balance was improving. Derek had built a simple training rail across the floor using metal pipes and old engine parts. She gripped the rail, breathing hard. Step, wobble, step. She fell. Derek moved to help, but she lifted her hand. "No," she said softly. "Let me try again." Derek smiled. Her spirit was stronger than her body, but she was healing, faster than he had hoped. He didn't know danger was only minutes away. At the outer gates, 5 armored men walked in without a word. Their uniforms were black, marked with a twisted version of the healer's crest. A circle, but cracked in the middle. One of the guards tried to stop them. He vanished in a flash of light. No alarms were raised. No one challenged them, because Tarnak had made sure the outpost was full of fear. Back in the workshop, Velara sat down exhausted. Her hands trembled from strain. "I couldn't protect anyone back then," she said. "They used me. My power hurt others." "You're not that person anymore," Derek said. "No, I'm still her," Velara replied. "But now I have something I didn't before." Derek looked confused. "What?" She looked straight at him. "Someone who believes in me." Suddenly, crash. The door exploded inward. Flames licked the ceiling as the smoke poured into the workshop. Derek coughed and grabbed Velara's arm. 3 masked soldiers stepped through the smoke, rifles ready. "Subject V-47, one of them said. "Return with us or the human dies." Velara's eyes filled with fear, but also fire. "No. Wrong answer." They fired. Derek shoved her behind a workbench and rolled to the other side. He grabbed a plasma welder and tossed it toward a fuel canister. It exploded, sending metal shrapnel flying. Velara screamed, not in fear but in rage, and something awakened inside her. The implants on her back glowed, her hands lit up with energy, and then the metal around her bent. The soldiers tried to fire again, but their weapons crumbled like paper. Derek watched in awe as Velara stood tall, her body glowing with light. She raised one hand. The ground shook. One soldier fell to his knees. Another dropped his rifle and ran. The last one pressed a button on his chest. "They're stronger than we thought," he whispered into the comm. Then he vanished in a blink of red light. Velara collapsed to her knees. Derek ran to her side. "You did it," he said. "You fought back." She was breathing hard. "It's not enough. They'll come again, stronger." "But so will you," Derek replied. "And this time, we'll be ready." The next morning, Derek helped her build a stronger brace for her arms. They worked side by side. No longer mechanic and machine, but equals. She was no longer just healing. She was becoming something else, a survivor, a warrior. Meanwhile, in a black starship not far from the outpost, Tarnak reviewed the footage from the drone. "She activated her power," the soldier said. "But it's unstable." Tarnak grinned. "That's fine. Let her grow stronger." "Why let her live?" "Because soon she will lead us to the one thing we truly want." The screen zoomed in on Derek's face. A human who can fix what we break. Back on Outpost 9, Derek upgraded the security. In the workshop, lasers, traps, cameras. Velara practiced controlling her healing field, now glowing blue instead of red. Her hands could fix broken parts without touching them, but it took energy, strength, focus. Sometimes she bled from her nose after just 1 minute. But she kept trying, because pain was no longer her prison. It was her path. One night, Derek found a piece of scrap metal carved into a star. He turned it over. On the back was a single word, written in shaky letters: hope. He looked up and saw Valara watching him. She didn't say anything, she didn't have to. The girl who once couldn't stand without falling now stood in firelight, her hand glowing blue, welding metal with her mind. But she wasn't fixing machines. She was building a piece of herself. Derek had never seen anything like it. Valara sat quietly in the corner of the workshop, surrounded by parts, wires, crystals, metal plates, focusing with all her strength. She wasn't using tools anymore. The implants in her arms shimmered with energy, guiding pieces together like an invisible hand. "What is it?" Derek asked. She looked at him with tired eyes. "A stabilizer," she whispered. "For me. If I lose control again, this will keep my power from killing us both." Derek nodded slowly. "Smart. You're getting stronger." She didn't smile. Stronger, but still not whole. Later that day, Derek connected the last parts of the data scanner Mara had modified. They were trying to unlock the full memory files hidden deep inside Valara's mind. "If we can access your original memories," Derek said, "maybe we can find out what Tarnak's real goal is." Valara hesitated. "And what if I remember something I wish I hadn't?" Derek paused, then gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then you won't remember it alone." When the machine activated, Valara sat in the center of a glowing circle. She closed her eyes. The scanner pulsed. For a moment, silence. Then her body jerked back, and she screamed. Not a soundless scream like before. This time it was real. Loud, raw, full of pain. Derek nearly shut off the machine, but Valara shouted, "No! Keep going!" Lights around her flickered. Her breathing turned sharp. The air shimmered with heat. Then slowly, her voice calmed. She opened her eyes. "I remember everything." She spoke in fragments. "I was taken from the healing temple. They said I was chosen, a gift to the galaxy. But it was a lie." She clenched her fists. "They used my power to hurt leaders, heal assassins, turn peace into war." Derek listened, heart heavy. "I was the last royal healer. When I refused to obey, they made me forget. They broke my mind piece by piece." Valara looked at him now with fire in her voice. "But they couldn't break my soul." From that day on, she changed. She spoke more, walked taller, smiled sometimes, though it was a sad smile. She began healing small animals Derek had rescued. A broken-winged skybird, a three-legged crawler, even plants that were dying in old pots. Wherever she placed her hands, things grew again, but her powers came at a cost. After healing, she would sometimes faint. Once Derek found her collapsed beside the bird's cage, blood dripping from her nose. He caught her before she hit the ground. "You can't keep pushing like this," he warned. "I have to," she whispered. "If I don't learn to control it, I'll never be ready for what's coming." One night she sat by the firelight carving something into a flat piece of metal. Derek watched in silence. When she finished, she handed it to him. It was a badge. On it was a symbol. Not the broken healer crest, but a new one. A circle surrounded by 4 stars. "For when the time comes," she said. "You'll wear this. It means I trust you." Derek stared at it for a long time. No one had ever given him a symbol of hope before. But hope comes with danger. Because the more Valara healed, the more the galaxy noticed. In the shadows of a distant city, a royal informant sent a message across the stars. "Subject V-47 is alive. She remembers." The message reached Tarnak's ship. He smiled. "Good. She will lead us to the others." Back on Outpost 9, Derek finished installing new defenses around the workshop. Mara visited more often, bringing supplies and gossip from the outside. "You made her a target," she warned. "No," Derek replied. "They did that when they tried to break her." Valara stood beside him, looking up at the stars. "They took my name," she said, but not my will. Mara raised an eyebrow. What do we call you now, then? Velara turned slowly and smiled. Call me what I am now. Derek nodded. A fighter? She shook her head. No. A healer. Who remembers? The sky above Outpost 9 turned red. Not because of fire, but because they had arrived. Derek was fixing the outer fence when he noticed the change in the air. It was colder, thicker. A humming sound moved through the metal walls. He turned to see Mara running toward him out of breath. They're here, she gasped. Tarnak's ship. It's hovering above the waste fields. Cloaked, but I saw the shimmer. Derek's face turned pale. They found her. Inside the workshop, Velara was meditating, floating inches above the floor, her energy glowing calm and steady. She opened her eyes before Derek even spoke. I know, she whispered. He's come to finish what he started. She stood up, stronger than before. She no longer stumbled when she walked. Her body had healed, but her memories had returned with scars. And now, she was ready. Night fell fast, and the shadows moved faster. Derek set up emergency lights around the workshop. Mara activated the defense drones. Velara carved a protective rune on the doors using her energy. Something ancient, something royal. It was quiet, too quiet. Then, a scream from outside. Derek and Mara rushed to the entrance. A guard lay on the ground, frozen in place, eyes wide open, mouth still shaped in a silent cry. Behind him, 3 dark shapes walked forward. Not soldiers, shadows, covered in armor fused with machines. Their faces were hidden, but their voices were human and cold. Return the asset, the leader said. Velara stepped into the light. I am not your asset. Correction, the shadow said. You are V-47, property of the reprogramming division. Velara raised her hand. Not anymore. The battle began without warning. Drones exploded. Lights shattered. Velara moved like a storm, her energy beams slicing through the dark. But the shadows were fast. They could teleport short distances. One grabbed Mara and slammed her against the wall. Derek charged in, using nothing but a wrench and a stun grenade. It wasn't enough. The shadows closed in on Velara. One of them pulled out a control rod, a device made to shut her powers down. It buzzed with red light. Velara screamed, her body twisted. She fell to her knees. Derek's heart nearly stopped. He ran to her, but the shadow raised a blade to stop him. Then something unexpected happened. The symbol on Derek's chest, the badge Velara made, began to glow. Blue light burst outward, knocking the attacker back. Velara's eyes opened, bright, awake, remembering everything. She rose, not with anger, but with peace. She whispered an old word in her royal tongue, a healer's word of reversal, and the control rod shattered in the shadow's hand. Velara floated above the ground, her arms glowing with light. Her voice echoed across the outpost. You broke my mind, you erased my name, but you did not destroy me. The shadows tried to retreat, but it was too late. Velara raised her hands. Instead of attacking, she reached out with her energy and began to heal them. The shadows screamed, not from pain, but from what they remembered. Memories returned. One fell to the ground, crying. My name was Kale. Another whispered. I had a sister. They were not machines. They were broken people, just like her, turned into tools. Velara didn't destroy them. She gave them back their truth. Only one shadow remained, the leader. He removed his helmet. It wasn't Tarnak, it was someone else, someone familiar. Velara froze. You? The man smiled. You healed me once, long ago. That's why I knew how to break you. His name was Droz, Tarnak's lieutenant, the first patient Velara ever cured, as a royal healer. He had turned that gift into a weapon. Droz lifted a small cube from his belt. This is your final chain, he said. One touch, and your memories vanish again. This time, forever. He threw it. But Derek jumped forward, caught it midair and crushed it in his hand. Sparks flew. Pain shot through his arm, but it was done. Velara was free. Completely. Dros roared in anger and attacked. But this time, Velara didn't fight with power. She stepped forward and embraced him. Energy flowed between them. Dros screamed, then collapsed, unconscious. Now, she said, turning to Derek. It's over. He nodded. No. Now it begins. As the sun rose over Outpost 9, the other workers and aliens slowly emerged from hiding. They had seen everything. Velara stood tall with Derek beside her. She's the one who healed them, someone whispered. Is she royalty? Another asked. No, a third voice replied. She's something greater. The wind blew softly across the broken walls of Outpost 9. Once a place of fear, now a place of whispers. People talked about the girl who had once been chained, the girl who healed her enemies, the girl who remembered. But deep inside the workshop, Derek lay silent. His body was still. Blood stained the floor beneath him. The battle had ended, but at a heavy price. Velara knelt beside him, tears running down her cheeks. No, she whispered. Not you. Her hands trembled as they hovered over his chest. Energy glowed, but flickered. She was too weak, too drained. No. She pressed her hands down. One last time. Memories rushed through her. The first time he gave her water. The first time he wrapped a blanket around her. The moment he smiled at her broken self and didn't look away. Please, she whispered, don't leave me. A single spark of blue light flashed under her palms, then a breath. Derek coughed, eyes fluttered open. Velara let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. You idiot, she said softly. You're not allowed to die before me. Derek gave her a weak smile. You're welcome. The galaxy moved quickly after that. Tarnak's network began to fall. With his shadow soldiers free and his plans revealed, royal councils from the inner stars took action. They sent envoys, asked questions, and above all, they asked for her. For Velara, the lost healer queen. She stood at the center of the outpost one morning, staring up at a royal ship sent to bring her home. Guards and diplomats waited beside, it ready to welcome her, but she didn't move. Derek stood behind her. You okay? He asked. She turned. They want me back. And do you want to go? Velara looked up at the stars. I don't know who I am there anymore. I know who I was, and who I was forced to be, but not who I'll become. Derek shrugged. Then, maybe, don't go back. She blinked. What if you made a new place? He said. Not queen, not prisoner, just Velara, the healer. She smiled. And where would I make such a place? Derek pointed to the horizon. Wherever you want. I've got tools, you've got magic hands. The royal envoys were shocked when Velara refused the throne, but she didn't care. She had made her choice. Over the weeks that followed, Derek and Velara rebuilt Outpost 9 into something new, a sanctuary. The old prisons were torn down. The cells became healing rooms. The engine halls turned into greenhouses powered by Velara's energy and Derek's designs. Injured aliens came from across the galaxy, the broken, the forgotten, the abandoned. All found healing there, not just through Velara's touch, but through kindness, through trust, through hope. One evening, Velara stood in the garden, watching a small alien child run with laughter. A child who once couldn't walk, now free. Derek joined her. They say we've started a movement, he said. Other outposts are copying us. I'm glad, she replied, but I didn't do it alone. He looked at her. No, you did it with a mechanic who barely knows how to cook. She laughed, and then she took his hand. Derek, she said, softly, You saw me when I was nothing, when I was a weapon, a ghost. You looked past all of it. You were never nothing, he replied. She stared into his eyes. You didn't just fix me. He tilted his head. No? She shook hers gently. You gave me something no one else did. What's that? A future. They stood there, hand in hand, as the sky above turned golden with the setting twin suns, and then slowly, she leaned forward and kissed him. The galaxy, once ruled by war and fear, remembered the story for generations of the girl who was broken and the man who saw the pieces and chose to stay. They didn't write books about how many powers she had. They wrote about how she used them to heal, not to hurt. They told stories of a queen who stepped down from the throne to walk beside a mechanic, and in the heart of a once dark place, a flower bloomed, one she had planted with her own hands. The petals shimmered with soft blue light, like her power, like her soul, no longer silent, no longer broken.